Welcome back to the DNA Pest Control Podcast. Aaron, how you doing?
Good, Daniel. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We are not dead. We are still alive.
We're here in case you guys were wondering.
We are here. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about a little bit of the break that we had. If I let Aaron explain it, he's going to say that we broke up and we're dead. And
that's it.
He's making everyone think that. But we're jumping back in it. I know there was a little bit of a break. We had a great experience. And really the focus of this episode is going to be on Pest World, because Pest World happens every October. This year it was in Denver, 2024. But a little bit back of why we took a little bit of a pause. Now that I kind of said it, now people won't believe you if you say that we died. What was going on, Aaron?
We're taking on a lot of new and a lot of exciting things. A lot of things that were kind of already in the works and kind of just got pushed to the front pretty quickly. And I've been, you guys have been listening for a while. We obviously have the pest control business and, do this on the side as a hobby. And Daniel and I are taking new steps into ownership and leadership in, different ways. So maybe you can touch on kind of what you've been doing and how you're still involved and, different hands in the pot. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So where we kind of took a little bit of break a couple months ago for all the listeners and to bring you into really kind of what's going on. Like Aaron said, yes, this is a hobby. No, we're not making a living off of this. So this is always going to be on kind of the back burner on some of the other important things that are going on in our life. One of those things is an opportunity for me to step away from the pest control business and leave it into great hands, which is Aaron right there. You're looking at him. So no, we are not in the same state. We are in different areas now. Aaron has taken on ownership of the pest control side, running the guys, running the team, running everything. Of course, I'm helping on my side as much as I'd love to leave it 100%. I do like pest control, and I'm learning that more and more as I'm stepping further and further away.
Oh, yeah.
So the joys of it, the excitement about it, running the team, looking at and strategizing for growth. It's so much fun. And so I still want to be very much a part of it as much as Aaron wants me not to be.
That obvious?
No. But, so I ended up taking another position in hopes of obtaining another, company. And we'll see where that kind of goes and how everything handles on our side. We won't go too in depth on everything like that. It doesn't necessarily matter or even really have anything to do with the pest control podcast, right? So, but that's kind of what's been going on with the move to a different state and still kind of running everything, and checking on everything and doing all that. We've been kind of separated from the podcast, especially with some new things going on in Aaron's life. I don't know if you want to mention anything. You don't have to, but some cool and exciting stuff for him as well. Apart from, now becoming a business partner with me. And this was a long time coming. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know when. At least I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know when. And what was cool is it worked out perfect. And when it happened, and it was actually awesome. We haven't skipped a beat. So.
No, honestly. And yeah, I'm more than willing to share because it's, I'm not willing to hide anything. So in about it was a 3-week span. I found out I was going to have a business and a baby. So it's a lot of new and exciting things going on in my life. And, and it was funny because about a month or two before any of this even happened, you and I, we went and played a round of golf for your birthday. And you asked me, you were like, so what do you need from me? And I looked at you and I remember what I said. I was like, I need a challenge, dude. I'm like, this is getting too easy. And you're like, all right. And, you gave it to me. And, so I've been basically, obviously with, Daniel's help on the back end, like I've been, running most of it, here on the pest control side in Sacramento. And, it's been challenging, but it's also been very rewarding. And I've definitely learned a lot more and gotten a lot, more in touch with not only the guys, but the sense of, how everything works and where energy needs to be, and, time management, and keeping myself accountable, and, holding myself. And I was already basically doing a lot of it, at least on the technician side. And now it's just taking an even further step back. And like we've talked about before, working on the business, not in the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd love to do an episode on this, because there are so many business owners that listen as well to this podcast, and they don't necessarily understand what it takes, to take on what you did, and really to see, where you're at, with handling multiple technicians. You're taking a bigger step than most of them. And you're stepping into, more of an established, business, but it's still very much involved, right? So we're not to the point where you're completely out of a truck or out of a vehicle or not being a tech. But we're right in that middle ground where you're almost out of that. And I think that would be really good for the listeners to understand what that looks like, especially from an outside perspective. Because you're taking on a lot of new things that you didn't get to take on slowly, right? I slowly took on a lot of different things, and just naturally it came. This is like, here you go.
Jumping in.
Yeah. So now it's, there's so many little things that, even I couldn't tell you or teach you. It's like some stuff, it's like, oh yeah, you got to do that too, huh?
Yeah.
Forgot. It was just habit for me. It's just what I did when I was there, so I think that would be really good for the people to actually listen and see, kind of hear what you went through. And speaking a little bit about that, and then we'll move on to Pest World, is we had a great experience, or I did, buying a couple vehicles yesterday.
That's right.
And I was talking to the finance guy, and this is for everyone out there who's running it, and you, Aaron. He's like, so, you have your business out there or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I got my guy out there. He's, we're partners. And he's like, so how is it? I'm like, oh, it sucked. It sucked growing a business. It absolutely sucked. Sugarcoating it. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. And there was times that it did absolutely suck. And I was just being very honest with him. And I think everyone tries to go always positive, and, and I think there's times to be real. And that was one of those times. So I think that would be great for the listeners to kind of pick your brain, and we can kind of jump in on that.
100%. I think it's a great episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, moving on, we just went to a great event, and we do it every year.
Yes, we did.
All right. Well, from your perspective, you have now been to 3.
This is my 3rd Pest World. Yeah.
You've been to 3 Pest Worlds. In your words, because I've had plenty of time to say it in my words what Pest World is. In your words, what's Pest World?
Pest World is a place to spend a lot of money to go to take some class. No, I'm just kidding. Pest World, they do it in different states each year. What they do, it's a combination of classes, expos. You actually get a lot of great networking time with other owners, operators, technicians. But basically, it's about a week-long event where you go. Usually the morning you're filled with classes where you're diving in on, certain ownership classes, sales classes, just basically covering everything. And the second half is typically done where you go to the expo, the exhibits, where they have all your chemical companies, your software companies, finance, like literally anything related to Pest World, exclusion guys, where they're coming out with new products, so they're to answer some questions. You probably see even some of your sales reps there, because it is a pretty big event where they push a lot of the new products and a lot of new systems. But I mean, Pest World as a whole, it's a great way to obviously go and learn. We said it on the last one, and even the first one I went to when we first started, or when I first jumped on the podcast. I was pretty green to the industry on the first Pest World, and I still took a ton. And even on the second and third one, I gained so much from it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's, you explained it really well. There's so much good. And I didn't realize the importance of going every year
Hmm.
until this year. And what I mean is those are typically that see, little by little, you start to get to know people little by little, and the connections start to grow stronger and stronger and stronger. And as you're there more frequently, I mean, we got pushed in so many different directions.
Hmm.
I mean, and it was just because of the connections that we created from previous years and going to different expos and things like that. And so walking through that and meeting all those people, they're like, oh, hey, did you know this person? And they do this and they do that. And it could help your business here and it could help your business there. And I mean, because we walked past a lot of these booths and not to dog on any of the booths, but the people in the booths suck,
Hmm.
really talking to anybody. They're not pulling anybody in. They're just like, hi. And then
Hmm.
that's it, right? And you just walk past them. So you don't have any idea of what some of those people do. But it was really good to get kind of pushed in different directions with the connections that we did have. Because I mean, honestly, we got three golden things from Pest World, just the exhibit side of things
Hmm.
to bring back. That's going to skyrocket this next year. Um, and so for everyone, knowledge, what they say is potential power. You can go to these things and you can get nothing. You can go to these things and you can pull out some of the most amazing ideas that is going to put you into the next level and way ahead of your competition. And this year, I still don't believe them. I know that they say this was the biggest year that they've had. I do not believe that. I think this was one of the smallest ones I've been to, even compared to Boston,
Hmm.
So very interesting, but it was good. It was an awesome experience, great thing. But the connections, the exhibit, the classes, you learn so much from this. And especially if you're a beginner, I feel in the future, tell me if I'm wrong on this, Aaron,
Tell
that we may actually kind of step away from the class side of things just because a lot of the classes are tailored almost to very beginner, just getting into the business. I feel
me.
I could be wrong, but I feel that that's how that is on most cases. Or maybe people just don't do anything or study or outside of Pest World. I mean, what do
Yeah.
you think on that?
A couple things. Well, yeah, I know that people don't study, and I know that it's hard, or people just don't allocate that time to, educate themselves and get better and better. And I think it's a good reminder for when you actually are there to continuously do that. And you're right. I mean, at least from my experience, what I took from it is it was a lot of good reminders. And as we were going through some of the sales classes, some of the technician or exclusion classes, which we'll dive into in some of these next couple episodes, but it actually really helped kind of frame like training programs for me. Because in my head, it's like, yes, of course, you and I, know this stuff. And I'm thinking about all the guys and I'm like, do they see it this way? And you know what I mean? Sometimes you assume it's like they watch me do it, I explain it and they get it and we're good. And it's like, no, no, no. It's actually really good to go back to basics and check on these things and actually go through the fine details, and make sure that the quality assurance is there. So, I mean, at least for me, I took a lot of things, more specifically on the sales classes, which I enjoy, even though for me, myself, it wasn't too groundbreaking on some of the things they were saying, but I did like how they structured it and how they actually explained it. And that's what I learned. It's like, okay, this is how you can actually explain how to do these things and kind of put it into motion. Just getting ideas from guy next to me is the operator, guy on the other side's a technician, and kind of picking their brains too. I think that's where the value is at for me,
Mhm.
but I definitely think if people do have the resources and availability to send, management and even technicians. It's a great experience, especially if you don't have a good extended education program at your company. It's a great learning resource.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I agree with that. I think it's where you go, and there's always going to be those golden classes you walk into and it's just put on by someone who is just out of everybody's league, right? And I mean, they're just geniuses and they know
Mhm.
everything. And I've had those. I've had those at Pest World. Um, and I think some of them, it's kind of and I feel like they've kind of gone back and they kind of did a cool thing this year is they pulled exhibitors and they allowed them to do a class as well. And so they only did it with 6. I don't know why they did this. It makes me feel that they didn't have enough people to come in and teach. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. They also did their pest or they did their podcast. I don't know what it's called, which they never do, and it's never up to date. But they have
Mhm.
a board, and they got to go back and forth, and a few PhDs went at it. We weren't a part of that, but so I think they do have some good stuff. I think they could put a little bit more focus on the classes though, and
Mhm.
really categorizing them as, hey, this is an advanced class. You probably don't want to go to this. If you're just
Mhm.
starting your company, you want to go to this class. The second one is not for you.
Mhm.
Because I think you would start to split and really start to gain more, traction from technicians and companies if you had that. Now, luckily, we went to some of the ones with exhibitors that they put on, and they were actually really good classes. Um, Partially one because we knew them, and the other one was because we want to use them.
Mhm.
so I mean, it all worked out really well. But kind of going over the schedule at a glance, for those who don't really know Pest World and maybe haven't listened to the past episodes, but Pest World, how they handle it is really day one. So it's a whole week. So
Mhm.
this one started October 21st, just so everyone knows. It's an entire week. The very first day, Monday, is really for associations. So you can register, you can do your little things like that. But like here, they had clay shooting, so clay pigeon shooting, that you could go be a part of, and that's more of a networking ordeal. And those are kind of paid additional apart from the ticket. So
Mhm.
you have to pay to go to those. You have your registration, which doesn't mean anything on Monday because that's not going to be, you can't even go into the expo until Tuesday. Doesn't open until Tuesday. And then you have your board meetings, and then there's a connection lounge, which is Syngenta, the NPMA board of directors meeting, past presidents, so you have all of that stuff on day one. Showing up on day one isn't really ideal. We typically would show up. If I showed up on day one, it was because I wanted to see the area. It's a new
Mhm.
state. I haven't been there before. Last time it was in Orlando. We did a whole week so we could actually go and see Orlando in Florida because we've never been. So
Mhm.
we took that time to go do that. I didn't even show up for the show until Tuesday.
Nice.
um,
Perfect.
yeah. So Tuesday, I mean, same thing like what you did, in Boston. You showed up on the Tuesday, you went and registered, you went and walked the expo, but there's no classes going on.
No.
Yeah. They do your beginning thing. I think in Boston, it was a whole police academy band, right?
Yeah, it was like the marching band and all that. It was cool. But I remember my first day in Boston. Because I think you got delayed or something, and I was like,
Yeah.
well, I've never been to Boston, so I literally I walked like 6 hours around Boston and really like figured out what was it about. So it was cool.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun getting there early.
Hmm.
But for anybody who wants to save a little bit of money on a hotel, things like that, you do not need to show up on day one.
Yeah.
Ideally day 3. So you could show up on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Hmm.
and that would be perfect, and how we do it, just for everybody who's saying, well, what's the process? How do you do it? You'll register, you go and register for, usually I just choose the entire thing, even though it doesn't matter. We're not going to be there for the whole thing, but that gives you all the classes, that gives you access to all the little parties afterwards, that gives you access to the expo for all 4 days, because the expo goes for 4 days, not 3.
Hmm.
Classes are only for 3. Um, from there, we're booking our hotel. Sometimes I go with the hotel that they have. So if you go on their website, they have a little drop down. They get special rates for where they're doing the convention. Um, Most of the time, it is way more expensive than to go choose a different hotel. So
Hmm.
the hotel that they stayed at this time, I think, was like $300 to $400 a night or
Hmm.
something around there. If you were not a part of NPMA and you weren't going to Pest World, I think it's like 500 plus a night. But if you only go for the 2 nights, then you're only spending $1,000. So it's not that bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you're obviously getting your flights out there, depending on where those flights go. So we're, West Coast. This was in Denver, so it's not a terrible flight. I think it was 2 hours for you and an hour and a half for me. So we flew out Friday evening. If it's Orlando, which is next year, it's in Orlando. We'll stay the night. We're not going to fly out Friday. We're not going to get back until Saturday anyway. So we'll stay. And then we'll fly out that Saturday. So we're not killing ourselves and trying to rush and, getting back super late on a Friday. But that's a little bit of how we do it. And this year we did it different. So we jumped in straight on to day 3, day 4, and day 5, and then left day 5 right after the mid party, I guess, because they always do a Pest Fest or a party afterwards. You have your free drinks, you had different little food, hors d'oeuvres, things like that. Which was pretty cool. Anything I'm missing on that, Aaron, or that you wanted to add?
No, I mean, you hit it. So just like Daniel said, the actual bulk and, the meat and potatoes of the expo and Pest World doesn't really start until day 3, unless you're part of, you're an exhibitor, you're actually doing the classes, or you're part of the NPMA or, the associations, like you said. And so, people looking at it like, oh man, I have to take a week off, I have to pay for this off. It's like, not really. You can do it smart, and they release the schedules ahead of time. So you can actually get kind of creative with it. Most of the time, I don't want to say all of the important classes and, things are done on that 3rd and 4th day, that Wednesday, Thursday. But even Friday morning, when we were walking through, it's like everyone was already packing up by the time we got to, they were just doing some final closing classes, last minute connection things, but, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can go on to the NPMA website. They have all of the other expos that are coming up. I think the Eastern Conference is coming up. We've never been. I don't know if I'll ever go. I haven't heard that one's one that you should go to. The Wildlife Expo is a great one. That's coming up as well. That one is in Orlando. That's typically always East Coast, which I don't know why. I wish that they would kind of switch or maybe even do 2 if they could. But the Wildlife Expo is expensive. If you think NPMA is expensive, Pest World's expensive, wait until you go to that one. That one makes Pest World look cheap. But you can go on their website and check all of that out. Good resources, good expos. And from there, that can kind of push you into different areas. They even do local expos from your associations locally. I know we do it. We had one that was up in Truckee or Lake Tahoe that they put on. They put it on at a terrible time. You never do it midsummer, but apparently they don't know when the busy season is.
Yeah.
Our association doesn't know when the busy season is. So you can do things like that. So if you're not willing to, or you don't have the resources to go to a whole different state or across the country, stay locally. They have classes, they have things locally. And typically your distributors as well will put on different stuff and bring in their sales reps for the different companies and products that they rep. And so they'll bring them in and they'll do classes and things like that. So we had that here when Geotech was around prior to the Forshaw purchase, and then once they changed over to Forshaw, I think they still do it. I think it's just kind of when they do it, we got to catch them right. And I think it's the beginning of the year as they do it for a couple months. And they'll do their classes. They do free food, things like that, which is cool. So good for the guys because they get something out of it. Plus, they'll get credits, that going towards the continuous education. And that's the other thing with Pest World is it's not just going and seeing the new things and going to classes, but you also get credits. So depending on your state, California, we have to get so many credits every 3 years. Pest World is giving us those credits. So you're getting 9 credits by going. You have 3 classes a day for the 3 days. And so you can get your hour credits over those days.
Exactly.
All right. Did I get anything else? Anything we left out for the intro on Pest World 2024 Denver?
No, I think we're good. So obviously next couple episodes, we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into kind of what specifically the classes, Daniel and I took and how we split up and kind of what we pulled from that. We're going to dive into, our experiences and, give you honest reviews. So you exhibitors and people from Pest World listening, get ready. But no, for listeners for DNA, it's definitely good to be back. Thank you guys for the support. Actually, it was funny. We were in a class and we had someone like kind of poke us in the back. They were like, "Are you guys DNA?" And we're like, "Yeah, we are." Like, what's going on? It was a guy who just started a business with his son. So
yeah, they're out in Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's what they said. Yeah. So they were out in Canada.
That's awesome. See, so it's always good to hear from you guys. We love connecting with you. You guys know where to reach us at dnapestpodcast.com. We have our Instagram. We have our Facebook. YouTube, we're going to start uploading again. So please send in those questions, send in those requests. We're going to start having guests back on the show coming soon. And thank you again for listening to the DNA Pest Control Podcast.